Can you predict the future with astrology?
Yes. There's a lot of famous world leaders, past and present, that used astrology because you can see what's going to happen.
Any interesting predictions for 25?
I saw a lot of things with technology, a lot of advancements with technology and AI, and also things with healthcare, more going towards AI predicting like what's wrong with you and giving out your medications.
Interesting. Mandy, appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Nice to meet you as well. I guess we'll just dive right into it.
Yes, I'm ready.
Can you predict the future with astrology?
Yes. Yeah, you can. That's usually what I do. And all the planets have different transits that it goes through. So I do a lot of monthly predictions, but I can also do yearly predictions. It's all based also on your natal chart. So it's very specific to the person.
What's a natal chart?
Sure. Your natal chart is pretty much this big circle, but it's got all your birth day and date and time information, the place, and based on that, that's why time is also so important. But I'll tell you why, because it's so particular to everyone. It's kind of like a thumbprint, or like I guess your own personal blueprint, and based on that, you can see exactly like where the transits are going to hit you, and you can predict so much from it.
Do you find looking at someone's natals from born at 9 p.m. at whatever seconds and minutes on that date, based on the charts, actually traject towards what was on the charts?
Yeah, like absolutely. And also, I think a lot of people think they should go by their sun sign. So like I'm a Gemini, and people will be like, "Oh, so you read the Gemini horoscopes?" And I'm like, "No." Um like that's why the time is so important, because I go by the rising sign. And the rising sign is the constellation that was rising above you when you were born, and there's literally a 2-hour window. So if you would say like, "Oh, I was born at 9 p.m." and then you find out that you were born at like 6 p.m. or something,
It's completely different.
it's completely off, because the constellations and the transits, they're all going to shift on the wheel, and you're going to go into like a different house. So it's pretty particular.
All right. How do some of the wealthiest people in the world use astrology?
So there's a lot of famous world leaders, past and present, that used astrology, presidents, and different leaders, just to, because you can see what's going to happen, right? You're going to see if a planet's going to go retrograde, or it's going to go forward in a certain sign. But you can not only do sign, or you can not only do astrology like for yourself and other people, but you could do it for a business. So depending on the time and the date you started the business, like I can predict like things that are going to happen and your challenges. And yeah.
Is there a percentage of accuracy, or do you find overall it's fairly accurate?
It's fairly accurate, gotta say, yeah. It's fair. I think it's fairly accurate. My grandma taught it to me, so I've been doing it for, I'm trying not to date myself, 30 years or so. So yeah, I pretty much know, and you'd be surprised because people kind of get it done with me. I do all kinds of different like astrology and tarot cards, but they'll get it done and they're like, "Oh my God, like, how did you know that? How is it? How? There's no way. I just met you." And I'm like, "Oh, it's in the planets." But I'm also a little bit clairvoyant, so I can already kind of see, especially if I meet the person, like I'll read the energy and it kind of all like goes together. So a lot of people are surprised.
What do you say to the naysayers of the topic and just saying it's kind of hogwash and it's made up and they don't really buy it?
So I also believe that everyone's like, you kind of create your own reality. So whatever you believe to be true and to be real will also be real. But so if you go into it with like a lot of skepticism and you're like, oh, this is not, you can say that. Like you could do like a reading with me and you can be like, oh, this is kind of, I don't know, I don't believe in this. And then I'm gonna do it for you. And I don't even have to tell you, but like I already know what's gonna happen with you. So I mean it's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Have you ever had a naysayer come to you, do a reading, be like, nah, it doesn't happen, then call you X amount of time later and be like, oh crap, you were right?
Yes, 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 yes. That has happened. I think that happens less, but I usually tell people when I'm doing the reading, like, especially with tarot cards, because it's more about like energy and specific questions. And they'll say, oh, no, this doesn't resonate. Like, this is not something that's happening. I'm like, well, it's something that probably is going to be happening very soon, or there's like a certain amount of time that's going to be happening. Like I can see a little bit further ahead than you. And because my emotions are not involved with you personally, it's great because I can see everything that's going on for other people. It's a little hard for myself because I have like the bias, like, oh, I'm not so sure. Even though it's right in front of me, I'm like, this is going to happen on a certain day. So like I'll make notes for myself when I do mine.
Interesting. What signs do you feel in 2025 will have a great year?
So again, it's more particular to your rising
Yeah,
sign.
let's say rising sign.
Yeah, rising sign. And it's also based on the person.
Oh,
So
so there is no like, because you see stuff on Instagram and TikTok, and it's
yeah,
like, oh, this one, and this one's going to have a great 25, and then this one, it's going to be a pain in the ass year.
I can generally predict it. So recently I was doing the predictions for March. And I saw certain signs that so in March, we're about to go into eclipse season again, and we'll be between eclipses. And that's like very powerful energy. And I was kind of reading yesterday, like what signs were going to have an easier time than others. And there were a couple. Scorpio rising is going to have it a little bit easier during March. Also Sagittarius rising. And we're just letting go of a Mars retrograde, which Mars was the planet of like war and destruction and chaos. And that was the longest planetary transit we were going through. Um, and it was interesting it happened when the fires were happening because Mars is about fire and destruction. So that's coming to an end around February 24th, 23rd, 24th. So a lot of people are going to start having it much easier because we're coming out of something that was like pretty challenging to go through. Mars was like not easy, and going in retrograde was like, yeah, he was angry.
Any interesting predictions for 25 in general?
In general, overall, when I read the overall, I saw a lot of things with technology, like a lot of advancements with technology and AI, and also things with healthcare, more going towards like AI predicting like what's wrong with you and giving out your medications. I saw like a lot of like big turn in like the future.
Interesting.
It is very interesting.
So many different questions.
There's
Do you feel someone's chart can predict when they get married, when they have kids?
Mhm.
You know, dark question of how much time do you have?
Yeah.
Does it predict all of that? Should people know that? Should they not know that? I don't really have a good answer.
So, I will only like because I see things around me, and especially like for my friends, let's say, unless you really come to me and ask me, I'm not going to tell you because some people don't want to worry about it. Some people don't want to know about it. They'd rather have everything just come as a surprise. And it's everyone's life to choose like whatever they want to know. I've been doing it so long that I feel really comfortable knowing a lot of things in advance because it helps me prepare like mentally or whatever it is when I know something's coming. I'm like, oh, like I should be careful with my health this month, or I should be careful traveling. Um, so Yeah, but I think it's pretty particular. And you asked me a question right before that, and I forgot what it was. Um, it was about charts, but I feel
Marriage.
like, oh yeah. So I'm Sicilian on my grandma's side, and they were in particular the ones that had the original tarot cards, which are the playing cards,
Mhm.
like we used to play poker. I read those, and I read those for every 52-day period, but I can read them for your entire life from 1 to 100. I mean, some people go past 100, but usually it's 1 to 100. And with those, I can see very clearly like what's going to happen. Like, yeah,
Like calling how long, when they're going to get married, how long
yeah.
it'll last, how many children.
Yeah, if you're gonna move, if you're gonna get a divorce, if you're gonna cheat, um, I can see a lot. And again, not everyone wants to know it, but yeah. But the thing also is, it's a little bit about reading the planets and the energy, and energy is not something that's like a pinpointed thing. It's like, oh, this is the energy right here. Energy is something that's like a surrounding force. So a lot of times when we say, oh, something's going to happen on the full moon, that energy is active actually like days before and days after. So it's just a little, you can feel it kind of coming in and then you can feel it letting go, but it's all still pretty valid.
What's some of the wildest stuff you've seen reading someone's cards? I'm sure the list is
Well,
endless, but
no, I can't even,
I'll give
I,
it
that's a lot.
top four that just comes to your mind quickly.
The top four, reading someone's chart that I was kind of like, oh, wow, if someone's going to be famous.
Okay.
And they didn't know, but I knew because I saw it in the cards. And I was like, oh, you're going to be like a famous musician. And they were like, no way. It's like this. And then they took off and they became famous. Um, that was pretty cool. I can tell someone came to me actually from the Midwest, and I did reading for them. I was doing tarot cards. I just met her, and she was like, "Oh, there's this guy I'm seeing," and then I just started doing cards, and I was like, "Oh no, he's married with children, and there's a whole thing going on." And she didn't know 'cause she's just started dating him, and then she got a hold of me later, and she was like, "I can't believe you're right." I can't even believe how this unfolded. I was like, yeah. And it's like sometimes you don't want to tell them because you see it. As soon as you see it, you're like, oh, but they're the ones coming to you. Like they want to know.
Yeah,
And,
like they want the answer out of you.
they want the answer. They paid you for kind of a service. So, good or bad, like you want to just be honest and say exactly like what it is. And then they take it from there.
Do you ever find out information that you're like, I just can't tell this person? So you just say, I don't know.
No, I'm pretty honest. I feel like people want to know either way. And so in the beginning, I'm like, you want to know everything that I'm about to say, if it's good or bad. And they're like, yeah, I can take it. And then, sometimes they get upset or sometimes they get really happy. But yeah, I think people are mostly like very curious and very interested. And when I was younger, I thought that mostly I would practice and I would do it with like my girlfriends. And I was like, oh, it's a girl that no, there's so many guys that want to know. And also the age range for people wanting to know astrology. I mean, like young to like old, people want to know like, hey, is this the year I'm gonna retire? Like my business has been going through this, and I'll look and I'll be like, oh, it's not this year, but in 2 years in November, yes, it is. Yeah.
Do you feel there's some people that do this that just aren't giving correct information?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I went to this bar to have a drink, and I was talking with this older gentleman, and he was asking me, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I do astrology and tarot cards." And he was like, "Oh, that's so great." And then he was talking to the bartender, and he was like, "Hey, do you remember last week when this girl came and she had her tarot cards all over the bar and she was trying to give people readings?" And I was like, and he was like, "Oh, do you have your tarot cards with you?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "No, it doesn't really work like that." It's something like I don't even bring my tarot cards out unless it's to a client's house, but it's not something I think you just take around with you for like, I know like some people want to do it for like entertainment purposes, but then I think it's just to like maybe have fun or whatever. But just the people reading it, don't get your tarot cards read at a bar, just like from a random person, unless it's like, oh, this, you know. And I've also been asked to read at events. And I really have to think about it. Like sometimes I'll go to like the bar and just see like how the energy is. And if I'm not feeling the energy, it doesn't feel like I should be bringing my tarot cards there doing readings. But they would set up a space for me that's like, you know, kind of closed off. It's not just like on the bar to all the people.
I don't know if you'd want to read a drunk person's cards, but
I
I
probably
feel like that energy is a
not.
little weird.
Yeah, and they're not even going to remember maybe the next day.
And
And
being a clairvoyant, like you're also feeling the energy.
I'm feeling energy all the time and I can't turn it off. Um, and it is wild. So a lot of times I'll go out and I don't go out very often and I won't stay out very, very often because I can like sit down someplace and read the energy of the room or read how people, the thoughts that are going through their head, but just like energetically. And I get overwhelmed. I'm like, I have to go home.
You're just like, I'm feeling too many people's
This
energy
is a
right now.
lot happening, like this person. And it's kind of funny. Sometimes I'll go to a restaurant, but then I'll be sitting there and the tables around me, I'm like, oh my God, this girl, she's so nervous. She's on a first date. It's like this whole thing. And I'll be trying to like have lunch or dinner with like the person in front of me. And I'm just like, there's so much happening with all the couples or, you know, people that are there, and everyone's having this whole like different life and different like experience. But for me, like I'm picking up on everything. So it's like sometimes it's hard to concentrate.
What do you feel the worst signs are to date?
The worst signs, like astrology
Yeah.
signs, I don't think there are any bad
Okay.
signs. I also think
Are there bad matches sign wise?
that, yeah. Well, not bad. Again, like I hate using
Not
the word bad, but I like to
not
say
great.
challenging. Yeah, not great. Like
Top three.
oh, it depends on your signs. So if your signs, you can be dating, let's say a Capricorn, and they but your sign is like compatible with them, so it's going to be great. But for someone else, like it's going to be like oil and water. So
And keep in mind, I don't know not much about the topic. When most people say they're, for example, I'm a Libra, is that a rising sign or is that
when you say you're a Libra, I feel like you're saying that's your sun sign.
I'm going based off my birthday?
Yep. So yeah, so probably like late September, early.
So is there a difference between matching a sun sign versus a rising sign?
Yes, so that you can read, like if you, let's say you read astrology and you want to like read your horoscope for the day and you read for Libra, you're gonna be like, oh, maybe, I don't know. And I think that's a lot of the times people are like, oh, I read my horoscope and like, I don't know. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. But if you completely stop doing that and you start reading for your rising sign, it's gonna be so much more accurate.
Think it'll change it by 50%
It's,
or
oh
higher.
yeah. Yeah, because it's the sign that was rising over you when you were born. So it's pretty specific.
Do you feel there's a dark side to astrology?
No, Not really. I mean, I feel like sometimes, like if I see like a Mars retrograde coming up, which is I think one of the worst retrogrades, because it's so like Mars is god of war and destruction. When I see that coming up, I'm like, ooh, this is going to be rough. And it's not just going to be rough for like a couple people, it's going to be rough for like the general population. Like, um, Mercury retrogrades, I mean, we kind of all hear about Mercury retrograde, and that's more like, oh, really challenging. Like our communication is going to get thrown off. Maybe our electronics aren't going to work. Um, that I look ahead and I'm like, oh, okay, it's coming again. And Mars retrograde comes like, a few times throughout the year. So I don't think it's that bad. It's more like when like a destructive planet's retrograde comes. I'm like, oof, I don't even know how to prepare for that.
Do you feel some signs are cursed?
No, I don't think so. I don't,
Have worse luck than others?
you can have a very challenging chart.
Okay, but
And
not necessarily sign.
no, not necessarily a sign. Um, Yeah, because it all depends on where your sign is, what house it's in. Let's say it's in the fifth house. The fifth house is all about love and like romance and children. And so maybe you have your sun sign there and you have like a bunch of planets there. So you're probably gonna have like a pretty good like romantic life and find like the love of your life, different things like that.
What do you feel are some of the biggest scams in astrology?
Oh, I feel like
Because it gets mishmash, there's people
it
that,
does.
there was that lady years ago when we were kids. I forget her name, but the one on TV before social media, long before that went to jail and all that fun stuff.
Oh gosh, I don't know who that is.
If I remember the name, you're going to be like, oh, I
Oh,
remember
oh
her.
wow, crazy. Um, well, so what was the question? I'm trying to think of that lady's name now. I got derailed.
Yeah,
Sorry, Gemini.
um, crap. What are some of the biggest scams or some of the
Um,
things that other people have done that kind of brought a bad name to astrology?
yeah, just people saying like, oh, because they can read a horoscope, they're like, oh yeah, I can read astrology. I'm like, it's like so much deeper than that.
What's the difference?
The difference, like, so like let's say I'll be talking to like a new like girlfriend and she'll be like, "Oh yeah, I know about astrology." And then I get curious because I'm like, "How much do you know?" Because maybe you can read for me because it's hard for me to read for myself. And then she'll be like, "Oh yeah, like I read this one person individual's astrology as it goes by the month and whatever." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, but are you reading like personally, like, did you do like a chart for like,
Or
the
you're just reading
person? Or you just,
someone's report?
yeah, you're just reading someone?" And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, that's not how it goes. Because that would just be a general, like, all the Geminis in the world, this is for you. Like, it's the lightest of the generalized reading you could possibly, it's not even worth it to read it. It's more,
Do you feel
it's,
there's a lot of people faking that they can read it and can do it, and they're just, it's going to sound a little rude, probably just they went on YouTube, watched some stuff, and then they're now trying to earn a living from it, but
yeah,
then they're doing it incorrectly and hurting people's feelings, or just, all the stuff that
I
may
think
come with a
so.
bad reading.
I think so. I'm not naming any
No, no,
names,
I'm not naming
but
any names. I'm just,
there's like there's a few that did some things and some predictions more recently, I think, and they were so far off at like really far off that it damaged their career. And I was like, oh wow, like I don't know. I feel like for me, if I can't see it, um, either like on the chart or right in front of me, or I'm picking up on it, I'm probably just gonna say like I can't like give you the answer, or like I can't figure it out. I'm not picking up that energy. I don't like see it in the cards. Like I'll just say that, but I won't try to guess anything because The worst is like most of my clients, they're all repeat clients. As soon as I get a new client, they're going to repeat and they're going to do word of mouth. And I'm going to get like 5 new people from them. And I think it's because I try to be like very honest and I just say like, oh, what I'm seeing. Yeah, the energy can shift around a little bit, but yeah, for the most part, what I see is that can happen to you, but maybe the energy shifts around a little bit and it's going to be less than what we thought. Like there can be a range, or sometimes I see it very strongly and I'm like, oh my God, no, this is like a 9 of diamonds. This is for sure a loss. Like, that you can't really get around. The certain things you can get around and certain things it's more of like, okay, this is what's going to happen, but I'm not sure the degree that it's going to happen. Yeah.
Do you feel there's a difference between doing a virtual reading, a phone reading, and an in-person reading?
For me, yes, because I read energy, so I get the best energy if I can see the person's face and feel their energy. So I always prefer either to do it in person, which was a little bit hard during COVID. So I started doing all the readings on videos.
Do you feel there was I understand during COVID, like we had to do what we had to do.
Yeah.
Do you feel there's a difference between doing a Zoom versus an in-person? Like for me, podcasting,
Yeah.
I do my best to not do virtuals because the energy is just not the same.
It's
You
not
can't
the
feel the
same.
body language.
Yeah.
It just feels cold. There's no warm up. You just turn on the computer and like, meh. Like there's no handshake. There's no nothing. I'm like, I don't like this feeling. It feels kind of cold.
Yeah, it feels kind of like impersonal or I do when I do my video readings, I definitely start, especially if I've never met the person, their referral. I always start by kind of like being warm and friendly and being like, hey, how's your day going? Like a little bit so that they can like feel a little bit more comfortable and relax a little bit and then go into it. I would say phone. I haven't done so many phone readings, but there are a couple clients that are consistent that do phone. And I think it's just because maybe they just don't want to be on video. It's not comfortable for them, or they don't look their best, or whatever it is. And that's fine with me. But I always tell them, if you can do a video, especially if you live in another country, try and do the video with me because what I'm going to pick up is going to be more accurate, and you're paying for something. And usually it's something pretty important. Usually there's a question in the back of their mind, like,
They're trying to find an answer to.
I need the answer to this, what's going on. And like for me, like I need to read your energy to help you even more.
How long is an average reading?
I like to do at least half an hour.
Okay. Do you feel that's enough time?
Half an hour is okay, but an hour is the best because I know how much time and energy it's going to take me to get all your information and start looking at the cards and see if I do astrology or I do the destiny cards. It's going to take a while because I have to look and see like, oh, right now you're in Neptune, but you're not going to stay there. Like on this date, you're going to move. And then like I have to read for the energy that's coming,
You're not pre-doing homework before someone comes.
No. Unless they want me to, but I think I have to charge more.
No, I was
it's like, yeah, it's taking my time. So, and it's a lot of energy also for me to be kind of like on and focused and seeing like what's going to happen for you. So I just do it at the start. And if it goes over, anyone I say you're going to get half an hour, do you mind if it goes over? Because it probably is, especially if someone comes to me and they say, oh, I want to know what's going to happen for the whole year.
You're like, can't do that.
A year is going to take me. A year is a minimum, like an hour, usually an hour and a half. I can tell you what's going to happen for your year.
Do you have a place where people come to, or you usually?
If I know you and I'm close to you, you can come to my apartment. And same if I get a client that I'm used to reading and I've been doing it for a while, I'll go to their house.
Okay.
But right now, I don't have like an office space. So a lot of it's just over video.
Okay. What's the difference between astrology reading and destiny reading? I my, like when you mentioned it a couple seconds ago, I'm like, oh, it
Yeah.
sounds like the same thing to me.
Yeah, astrology is more based on the signs, like the, Gemini, Aries, Scorpio, whatever you are. It's based particularly on that. And Destiny, the original tarot cards, are based on the planets and a science of numbers with those cards. Um, and it's going to change every 52 days. You're going to get a new planet, and then you're going to get 2 to 4 cards under that planet. And then after 52 days, it's going to move. But it's the energy of the planet that I'm going to read. And everyone's born with 1 to 2. Sometimes I've seen 3, which is crazy. It's usually 1 to 2 playing cards. And then I see which cards you are, and then where it's going, how old you are. You're going to go through this at this age, and it's going to move.
Are some people overwhelmed by the time they leave or it's over?
Yes. Yeah, most of them. A lot of the people I read for ask if it's okay if I do a video, if they can record it. I always say yes, of
So
course.
they can go back over.
Yeah, because the amount of people that come back, especially when I was first starting, that come back to me and say, "Oh, hey, this is Sarah, and you read for me 2 months ago,
You're
and
like,
I can't remember what's going to happen on July 16th." And I'm like, "Girl, did you record this?" And they're like, "No." I was like, "Well, did you take any notes?" I always say it's really helpful, like if you kind of take some notes as you go
or just
along.
turn on your microphone and
Yeah, just
record.
just like or hit record. It's totally fine with me because I can't tell you. I don't remember. You know how many readings I've done like this month? Like,
You're like, we gotta start over.
yeah, we're gonna have to start over. And so I'll say, "Oh, do you want a new reading to see if anything changed?" We can do it that way. And some of them will. Some of them, if it's something really specific coming up, like a move or something, and they're going back and forth, and they want to know, like, "Hey, should I move to San Francisco?" And I'm like, "Hold on, like I can tell you exactly how you are going to feel in San Francisco based on how you're going to feel here in LA." And it's specific, but like, so they're getting ready to do this, and they'll come back to me like 5 times because it's kind of like a huge decision to make.
Being able to read astrology and destiny cards, how does the clairvoyant part help or hurt you in those readings?
It only helps, I feel like, other people because I'll pick up on energy and I can read for them, especially like, say, my friends, people like I'm more close to. And then once I get to know you, like I can say a lot that's going to be happening around you, the energy of people you're associating with, where that's going to go. Um, for myself, I think it hurts because I can't read myself. Like I can, but it's the whole my emotions start clouding everything. And then I'm like, "Oh no, like let's say there's a guy, I'm like, "Oh, I wonder if me and this guy will get along." There's so many emotions and then I can't figure it out and then I'll just give up. I'm just like, "No, it says this, but I don't believe it." And then yeah.
Let's say someone has their stuff read today and then you read it again on Monday. Does stuff usually change in that couple day span? Does it stay the same? Can
Yeah.
someone shift the trajectory of what you've talked about? All of that fun stuff of, what are the variables involved?
It is usually going to stay the same. And particularly, people love to get monthly readings from me. And I'll tell you how your entire month of March is going to go. And I'll put dates. And the dates usually they correspond to like a full moon, a new moon, some big transit that's happening and how it's going to affect you. Those dates are pretty solid. It's going to happen either a little bit before, a little bit after, but usually it's going to happen. I feel like there's certain things you can't shift so much. I feel like you can shift it like a little bit, but from what I've always seen is there's an energy, there's a planetary energy that's causing something to happen for you. And there are like a few instances, I'm trying to think of one where for me, if I see something coming on my own, I'm like, and I don't like it, I'm like, oh, that's coming. Like, I'll already start thinking how I can like transmute the energy and shift it to something else.
That's for you personally.
For me personally, because I know how to do it.
No, I'm just
But
making sure that's
yeah,
for you, not for like a client that you're reading
yeah.
for.
So for a client, I'll tell them, I'll be like, hey, I saw this coming. If there's any way you can, you know, you don't want to happen, start thinking very positively of something else you do want to happen. That's kind of similar in energy. I don't know, energy is hard to explain. Similar, and some people will get it. Some people will get it, and then some won't, they're just trying to like figure it out. But when you get used to astrology and energy and planetary um like energies, you can kind of figure out how to shift it around a little bit.
Is having your signs read and all that fun stuff expensive or fairly affordable?
For me right now, I'm 250 for the hour.
Okay.
I feel like those rates are probably going to be going up, but I've been doing it like for a while, like increased it slowly because I can spend so much time doing it, and because this is what I do full time, I need to make sure like it's also worth it for me. Um and that I do the best job I can do. So you're going to come back to me and then you're going to tell your friends and then they're going to come.
Doesn't sound horrible.
It's not bad. Yeah. Most people think like, oh, hey,
Thought
that's
you were
for
gonna
you.
say like $1,000 or something.
No, maybe I should be. Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like I also really love helping people and seeing people like, if I feel like kind of my purpose is to help people. And the way I learned how to do it is through astrology. So if I can do that, but also maintain like my lifestyle and my living, then
Then you're good.
I'm good. Yeah.
Is there anything you wish more people knew before coming to you to learn about everything?
Um,
Like some common misconceptions or just rumors or whatever you want to call it.
oh, it would be great if everyone already knew that you don't go by your sun sign, you go by your rising sign. But people, I think a lot of people don't even know how to calculate like
Well, most people don't know what time
this.
they were born.
Yeah, and they
And
have to go
and
back.
if I heard you correctly, it's hours, minutes, seconds.
Yeah, well, hours and minutes.
You don't need seconds.
Yeah, you don't need seconds, but the hour and the minute. So I have a lot of people coming to me saying like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna have to call my mom. She lives in like London, or I have to call the hospital and get the birth certificate." Because if you can do that, you're gonna get like a great reading if you know
It
your
is on
time.
a birth certificate, right?
Yeah, it's on
Oh.
your birth certificate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, I know if I called my mom, she'd be like, I don't know, it's nighttime.
And the moms are usually like, yeah, I don't know, the sun was coming up. And then it was like, someone came to me the other day and they're like, oh, you remember when I said that? The sun, it was actually another day and the sun was going down. They're in the middle of childbirth. I don't think you know what time it is. So.
No, my kids were born at home and I remember them calling the time. And keep in mind, I'm not doing much during the process. I'm standing there for moral support. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I feel like you guys delayed it by ever so slight. And nobody's paying attention to the clock because everybody's like making sure the baby comes out healthy and all of that stuff. So
it's the main event.
is the time that's actually on whatever document truly correct? I don't know. Maybe?
I believe so, because I feel like the doctors there's someone there that's
I feel like
noting the
it's
time.
plus or minus 3 minutes.
Yeah. I would go with that. Yeah.
And does plus or minus 3 minutes really change for your work?
No,
Okay.
not so bad. Yeah.
Hours make difference.
Hours, huge difference.
But
yeah.
5-10 minutes, you're fairly safe.
Yeah.
Which I think is more than enough wiggle room.
Yeah. I think it's like fine. And usually you're not gonna, go out of a sign into another one like within a couple minutes. If you are, there have been people where I've read their chart. I've seen the chart and I'm like, oh my God, you're the minute you're exactly right on the border of being like two different signs. And there's only two people right now I read for that have that. And so I'll read both signs for them. And then I'll
Does
tell
some
them,
stuff equate to one versus the other? Like, how does that work in that situation?
I'm still trying to figure it out because I don't know them so well. I think if I knew them better, I could see their personality more and say, "Oh, you're a Libra. You're not like, another sign." But I'll tell them like, "Hey, I'll read both of these for you, and when you come back to me or if you have any questions, just like kind of tell me like how it went this month. Like were these dates kind of working out for you and you felt like this or was it more like this?" And if they can just do it for me like in 1 to 2 months reading, then I'm gonna figure out which one you are.
Okay, so if you do it a couple times, you can figure out like which
Yeah,
one they actually are.
yeah. Because it will be closer, like there'll be like specific things that are closer, or how they handle things, or how like the energy comes for them. And I'm like, oh, okay, like you're more laid back, you're probably this sign, or you're more balanced. This one, you're more like at home analyzing things in your head. It's completely different.
As we start to wrap, is there anything we missed that you feel the viewers and listeners should know about astrology or clairvoyant or the destiny stuff?
Mm, so much. Um, there's probably only one thing I don't like to read for, and that's probably death. Um, because it comes up as a big change. There's a certain card that'll come and it'll be a big change. And sometimes I'll see it like during someone's life, but then I'll see other things going on and I'm like, oh, okay, like, it's probably more a change of something big is changing in your life rather than a death. So I hate to read about death. I'm like, oh, don't ask me. Like, I don't want to tell you. And like,
You're like, I
it's
don't,
like,
you don't want to know when the buzzer goes
you
off.
don't want to know. Like, you want to know other things. I can tell you other things.
I just hope it's quick. That's all.
Yeah.
Don't want
Let's
it long
hope
and
I
drawn
don't.
out.
I don't. Yes. No.
Where can people find you, Mandy?
People can find me on my Instagram. I also have TikTok, and I'm in the midst of setting up a link to book, which I will be working on this website. Otherwise, it's my Instagram, which is instabunny13, and my TikTok, which I believe is Mandy Styles 13.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on today,
Thanks
Mandy.
for having me. It
Of
was
course.
fun.